March 12th carries a subtle but noticeable shift in internal momentum. The past several days have encouraged reflection, interpretation, and emotional understanding. Many of the experiences earlier in the week were designed to reveal patterns, clarify relationships, and expand your perspective about what certain situations truly mean. Today begins to change that internal rhythm. When a period of reflection lasts long enough, something interesting happens psychologically. The mind starts feeling less interested in analyzing what has already occurred and more interested in what should happen next. You may notice a growing sense of restlessness today. Not necessarily frustration, but a feeling that certain realizations are beginning to demand movement. Thoughts that once felt purely reflective may now carry the question of how they should influence your future choices. This shift can appear quietly at first. You might find yourself thinking about changes you have been considering for some time. A decision that felt distant a few days ago may suddenly feel more relevant. A conversation you have been postponing might begin to feel necessary. This does not mean immediate action is required. Instead, it reflects the psychological moment where insight begins transforming into intention. After a period of observation and understanding, the mind naturally wants to apply what it has learned. It wants to test the clarity that has developed through real movement rather than continued reflection. You may also notice that your emotional reactions feel more focused today. Earlier in the week, emotions may have moved in many directions at once. Now, those feelings may begin pointing toward a specific area of your life where change seems more likely. That area might involve a relationship, a goal, a conversation, or even your own internal habits. The important dynamic today is not the action itself. It is the awareness that action may soon become necessary. Psychologically, this is the moment where the mind begins transitioning from understanding a pattern to deciding how that pattern will influence the next step. It is the quiet moment before movement begins. Now let's look more closely at why this kind of psychological pressure tends to build after a period of reflection. Human decision-making rarely moves in a straight line. Most meaningful changes follow a cycle. First comes experience, then comes reaction. After that, the mind begins analyzing what happened and trying to understand its meaning. This reflective stage can last for days or even weeks. But reflection eventually reaches a natural limit. Once the mind believes it has gathered enough understanding, it begins searching for resolution. The insights that formed during the reflective phase start pushing toward action. This is the moment where people feel the internal shift from thinking about change to preparing for it. Psychologically, this stage often feels like restlessness. You may notice that certain thoughts repeat themselves more frequently today. Ideas that once appeared occasionally may now return with stronger emphasis. The mind might revisit a particular situation again and again, not because it is confused, but because it is searching for the next step. This repetition is not a sign of uncertainty. It is often a sign that the mind is preparing to commit to a direction. Another important aspect of this stage is emotional alignment. Earlier in the week, you may have understood something intellectually but felt unsure about it emotionally. Over time, the emotional response begins catching up with the intellectual insight. When those two elements align, clarity begins to feel more actionable. You might notice that your instincts feel stronger about certain topics. Something that once seemed complicated may now feel surprisingly straightforward. The mind stops searching for more information and begins asking what action would bring the most alignment with what you already know. This stage can also create sensitivity to situations that feel unresolved. A conversation that was postponed may return to your thoughts. A decision that you delayed might now feel difficult to ignore. Even small habits or patterns may stand out more clearly if they no longer match the direction you want to move in. It is important to understand that this internal pressure does not mean you must act immediately. In many cases, this stage exists specifically to prepare you for action that will occur soon. It gives the mind time to organize intention before external movement begins. Think of it as the moment when understanding transforms into readiness. You may not take the next step today, but the awareness of what that step might be is beginning to take shape. And once readiness appears, movement rarely stays far behind. Now bring this internal buildup down into everyday behavior, because the shift from reflection to readiness often appears through small changes in how you respond to situations around you. You might notice that your patience for uncertainty begins to decrease slightly today. Earlier in the week, it may have felt natural to observe events without needing immediate resolution, but as understanding grows, the mind becomes more interested in clarity. This can show up as a stronger desire to resolve unfinished matters. A conversation you postponed may return to your attention. A plan you once considered optional may now feel more important. Even small decisions that were easy to ignore earlier might now feel like they deserve a clear answer. You may also notice an increase in mental focus around certain topics. Instead of thinking about many different things at once, your attention may begin concentrating on one or two specific areas of your life. These areas are often where your next stage of growth is developing. Another common pattern during this kind of build-up phase is emotional awareness around habits or patterns. You might suddenly recognize how a routine affects your energy. A behavior that once felt automatic may begin standing out because it no longer fits the direction you were considering. This awareness is not meant to create frustration. It is simply the mind recognizing where adjustments might eventually take place. You may also notice that your motivation feels slightly different today. Rather than feeling excited about many possibilities at once, you might feel drawn toward one meaningful change. The desire for progress becomes more focused rather than scattered. At the same time, it is important not to force action prematurely. Moments like this often function as preparation rather than execution. The mind gathers the final pieces of clarity it needs before committing to movement. If you feel the urge to act quickly, pause long enough to confirm that your understanding is stable rather than temporary. Once a decision forms from genuine clarity, action tends to follow naturally. Today is less about doing something dramatic and more about recognizing where your attention continues returning. The situations that keep appearing in your thoughts may be revealing where your next step is quietly forming. Now bring this internal buildup into your own experience, sign by sign, not as prediction, but as awareness of where readiness may be forming in your life. If you're an Aries, you may feel a growing urge to take initiative in an area where you have been reflecting recently. A situation that once felt uncertain may now feel ready for movement. Growth for you lies in recognizing when instinct and understanding begin aligning. If you're a Taurus, emotional foundations or personal priorities may be asking for attention. You might notice a stronger desire to create stability in an area of life that has felt uncertain. Growth involves acknowledging what kind of environment truly supports your well-being. If you're a Gemini, communication patterns may begin revealing where clarity is needed. A conversation you have been postponing or thinking about repeatedly may start feeling more necessary. Growth lies in expressing your thoughts honestly once you feel prepared. If you're a Cancer, questions about security or personal values may feel more focused today. You might begin recognizing what truly deserves your time and energy. Growth involves choosing stability over obligations that no longer feel meaningful. If you're a Leo, your sense of personal direction may feel more defined. Something you have been considering internally may begin shaping your decisions more clearly. Growth lies in trusting the understanding you have developed over the past few days. If you're a Virgo, internal reflection may bring quiet but powerful realizations. You may recognize a pattern or habit that needs adjustment. Growth involves allowing this awareness to guide gradual change rather than demanding perfection. If you're a Libra, social connections may highlight where collaboration or shared goals are becoming more important. You might feel drawn toward people or environments that support your growth. Growth lies in recognizing where mutual effort exists. If you're a Scorpio, professional or long-term goals may begin demanding attention. You may feel the need to refine your direction or clarify your ambitions. Growth involves aligning your efforts with what genuinely motivates you. If you're a Sagittarius, belief systems or personal philosophies may feel ready to evolve. An idea that once seemed distant may now feel relevant to your life. Growth lies in exploring perspectives that expand your understanding of your path. If you're a Capricorn, emotional depth or shared responsibilities may begin shaping your decisions. You might recognize where cooperation or trust will influence your next steps. Growth lies in strengthening foundations that support long-term stability. If you're an Aquarius, partnerships may reveal where alignment or misalignment exists. You may feel more aware of how certain relationships influence your direction. Growth lies in recognizing connections that support mutual development. And if you're a Pisces, daily routines or personal habits may highlight areas where change could improve your overall well-being. You may feel drawn to adjust how you manage your energy or time. Growth involves making small adjustments that support your long-term goals. As we close March 12th, take a moment to notice the difference between understanding something and feeling ready to act on it. Over the past several days, many experiences may have encouraged reflection. You may have reconsidered conversations, reinterpreted emotional situations, or gained insight into patterns that were not obvious before. Those moments of understanding were important because they created the foundation for clarity. Today begins the stage where that clarity starts forming intention. You may not have taken any visible action yet, but you might notice that your thoughts feel more directed. Instead of questioning what something means, your attention may now be moving toward what should happen next. This shift often feels subtle. It can appear as restlessness, repeated thoughts about a particular situation, or a quiet awareness that something in your life is approaching a turning point. That feeling does not mean you must rush into decisions. Sometimes readiness needs a little time to settle before the next step becomes obvious. The purpose of this stage is simply to recognize where your understanding has grown strong enough to influence your choices. Tonight, you might ask yourself a few reflective questions. What realization from the past week keeps returning to my attention? Where do I feel a growing desire to bring clarity into a situation? And what kind of action would bring my life into better alignment with what I now understand? These questions are not about forcing answers. They're about recognizing that insight naturally leads toward movement when the moment is right. The experiences of the past week have been preparing you for that shift. Sometimes the most important part of change is the moment just before it begins, when you realize that understanding has quietly turned into readiness.